Discovering Asian dramas back in 2018 was an enlightening moment for me, and I've never looked back. I enjoy talking about them just as much as watching them, so much so that I decided to create a podcast with a heavier focus on Chinese dramas but passing through Korean, Japanese, Thai and Filipino dramas. Welcome to the Tea and Soju Asian Drama Podcast, your corner for drama talking. For more tea and soju content, consider joining Patreon, where I release extra reviews and polls. Everything is linked in the episode description. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Tea and Soju Asian Drama Podcast. I'm your host Liliana, and in today's episode we're going to be deep diving into the recently aired drama My Lethal Man. So buckle up, because this drama is a wild ride, and I'm assuming the episode is also going to be one. Now, the reason why I called it It's So Bad, It's Good, it's because it's kind of like a drama category for me. There's those type of dramas that inherently you know they aren't good. And by that, I mean, they're so old-fashioned in terms of the tropes they use, etc. And, the story might not be great, and you pretty much know everything that's coming, but there's something that's just so, you get so hooked on. Now, these types of dramas, they aren't for everybody. In fact, I think, especially for this one, for My Lethal Man, there's quite a lot of people that will probably think, who on earth would want to watch that? But I think at the end of the day, everybody enjoys different things, and, unless there is something, completely out of the scope for a drama. And by that, I mean, if by any chance, there's actually something wrong with an actor or an actress that is, inherently bad in real life, then, whatever's on screen for me a lot of the time is for entertainment purposes. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that, I'd go and watch a drama that's, based on racist people, or, that doesn't, or that appropriates a culture in a way that shouldn't be appropriated, or anything kind of like that. Those are like hard limits for me. But when it comes to kind of like these dramas, and what I would say they are equivalent to a Korean makjang. Now, if you've watched a makjang, they kind of like what you would consider an almost like Korean telenovela. These Chinese dramas are, I would say, the equivalent of that. And I grew up watching telenovelas, with my whole family. It's a big thing in Portugal. There's still ones that will air, for a year, and then they're done, and then they move on to the next one. And actually a lot of, famous actors and actresses, at least for my generation in Portugal, started out by doing telenovelas. And they are fun, they are crazy, and the one thing that I find about them is that they offer complete escapism, because the stories that they tell, you don't expect to see those stories in real life. Just like with this, with this drama, it's a story that I would never in my wildest dreams expect to happen in real life. So for that reason, it kind of gives me that complete escapism, because there's no sense in it. There's no reality in it at all. So, I think that's what these types of dramas kind of offer you. They offer you really good entertainment in the terms of they are complete escapism. Turn your brain off, because you're not going to need it when you watch this. There's no point in trying to keep up with all the twists and turns and crazy, wild things that happen. That's not the point of them, I don't think. Now, if I was to put on my, thinking cap, so to speak, while watching this drama, I would immediately say, within the first 2 episodes, this is rubbish, there's no way I'm going to be watching this. But I didn't. I am the type of person who will enjoy these dramas because, again, for me, they remind me a lot of telenovelas and, what I grew up watching. So, I think it depends on what kind of mood you're in. Sometimes these dramas just work so well for escaping. So, I think I always want to put a little bit of a warning that comes with this type of drama. So that's what I mean by it's so bad, it's good. Like, you don't know. It's kind of like almost a train wreck. You don't want to look away, even though you're not going to like, what you're seeing. You can't look away. It's that kind of drama. And I'm saying all of this, but actually this drama isn't the worst thing I've watched. I enjoyed it thoroughly throughout it. I had a really fun time while watching it. And, so yeah, they just, complete escapism. And for some reason, it's like, they just become really addictive. There's something about these types of dramas. They have this formula that they kind of, work to. And for some reason, they just kind of work and, you become hooked on them. So yeah, that's what I mean by that. So again, before I go into what the drama is about or anything like that, I will say there's definitely a, trigger warning. There's some scenes where there's like the male lead grabs the female lead in a chokehold. Now, if I'm watching that, and I know a lot of people, that's where the problem with this type of drama comes in, because a lot of people will be like, how can you stand to watch something like that? Now, this one, it does happen right at the beginning. It happens a couple of times. And now, if this was happening in real life, I would be running for the hills. Like, that is red flags. This male lead is complete red flags 101. Like, that is, red flags. And if I was to experience, not like, hopefully never, but if I was to see that in real life, if that was a real life situation, I would be running as fast as I could in the other direction. I know, like, my brain can kind of, separate what I'm watching on screen for it to be fiction and, whatever happens in real life. Now, I know for some people this sort of scene may be triggering, and then that's just not, the drama for you. But I also think sometimes, some people will see a scene like that, or I think I came across an Instagram post and it was literally one of those scenes, and people, like, one of the biggest comments that people made was, how can you, I don't understand people that watch this, how can they romanticize this? And I was thinking, I'm not romanticizing this at all. There's no way I am. And to be fair, I don't think anybody should have to explain, their watching habits or what they enjoy to watch. And actually, thinking about it, right before I sat down to decide what I was going to do for this week's podcast, I had this episode in mind, and I really did want to review My Lethal Man because it's crazy, but I had such a fun time watching it. But also, I kept thinking, is this the right move? Because I know there's people that will see that you've watched this type of drama and they'll just kind of like label you in a certain way. And I know that's inevitable. But like I said, I don't romanticize those scenes. I actually don't like them. And, I just don't think they're right in there. That's what I mean by it's complete escapism. Like, seeing it on the screen, I don't necessarily enjoy it. Actually, if you stick around and listen to the parts of, what I didn't quite like about that drama, this is one of those points of what I didn't like about the drama. Yeah, I just think, some people will just completely say, why would you ever even want to watch something like that? And again, what I watch on my screen is not what I expect out of real life. So those scenes, they aren't nice, and I think they could have been done differently. But I think that's the big elephant in the room, and I kind of just wanted to, address that straight out of the bat and say, those scenes are there. And if that's triggering for you, then just don't go into the drama at all. But I think it's a little bit I don't know. I feel like sometimes we can all judge each other on what we watch or, what we don't enjoy or what we do enjoy. And I feel like sometimes if you just like, you can agree to disagree and move on. Like everybody has different point of views and everybody has different, expectations out of what they're watching. Sometimes you want to immerse yourself in a drama so badly, that it completely makes you forget real life. And watching something like this, that's what it is. I think for me, when I watch something like this, real life like doesn't exist. That world that I'm watching is completely insane, and I never expected it to be real in any sense of the word. So, I did want to address those straight away because I know they are problematic and like there's no way I'm romanticizing those scenes. So yeah, they are in there. So if that's a trigger warning for you, that's, don't go near the drama and maybe skip the episode. Or if you do want to, listen on and at least figure out without watching the drama, what it is that kind of, at least from my of my point of view, like what I enjoyed in it. And now I've just been waffling for 10 minutes but I did want to just, get that out of the way, because I know some people were, there was a lot of chatter online about, how those scenes, how could anybody ever watch a drama that, had those scenes in, or how could anybody ever, come to enjoy this couple or come to enjoy this male lead in any way. And I will say, I still don't agree that those scenes were in there, but the male lead does do a full circle journey. No, and 180, because if you do a full circle journey, you're right back where you started, and that's definitely not where he is at all. The character that he is at the end of this drama is it's like night and day to the character that he was at the beginning. So there is that. For this type of budget and this type of drama, that's rare for you to see, and that's one of the things that I really enjoyed. But I'm getting way, way ahead of myself. Like I said, it's everybody each to their own. I really enjoyed it, and I think there's a few people that really enjoyed it. It went a bit crazy online. But yeah, I wanted to get that little, thing out of the way because I know it was problematic for some people. So basically, what is this drama? So My Lethal Man is a 22 episode drama which aired from January 13th until February 5th. It is a Aichi production and it is 24 episodes of about 40 minutes, but that is including the credits. I mean, some episodes are only about 30 minutes. So yeah, they are like on the shorter side more than the, longer side for this drama. It is tagged as a mystery romance drama on MDL. That's where I got that one from. And it's starring Lee Mozi as Shen Maning and Zhuang Xinyan. So she plays both of those characters. That's what I mean by and. And then the male lead is Fanzin Xin, and he plays Yan Xing Chang and Yan Yi. Again, two characters. It will become a little bit more clear when I explain what the drama is about. And this was written by Chen Fang Yuan and directed by Chu Dejian. So yeah, that's just basically, your basic facts. And the plot for this drama. Now, I'm using the Wiki Addict because if you listen to my episode 2 weeks ago, I actually mentioned this drama. And this is what I mean that I sat on this episode, because I actually had already finished this So this aired until February 5th, and I think I did my currently watching, right around that time. And I kind of sat on this episode because I was going to do this episode next, and I honestly had one of those moments, and I think it's the first time that it's ever happened to me in terms of whether I should or shouldn't do an episode, because I've just kind of like, a lot of the time I just put out episodes thinking, this is what I would want to hear, and hopefully that will connect with you guys as well. But with this one, I actually really, really sat down and was like, do I want to put this episode out? And again, it is literally just one of those things where it came down to, look, I enjoyed it. I don't necessarily think, for me, it's escapism, and lots of people may not agree with it, but actually lots of people may agree with it. So I ended up deciding on doing the episode anyways. So here we are. We shall see how this one lands. But yes, so I'm using, basically what I was saying was the episode, so I'm currently watching from the end of January. I was almost done with My Lethal Man. I actually binged this show really, really quickly. I was watching with another friend, she was watching at the same time as me, and basically it's quite funny because she's in the USA and episodes were dropping 4 a.m. my time, so I couldn't watch the episodes until I finished work. But she is a night owl. That woman does not sleep, so because she doesn't sleep, she would watch the episodes, and by the time I got up, she would have watched them and she would have left little comments on our conversation, and I don't mind spoilers at all, so I would be opening the spoilers and then I'd get more excited to be like, where is this wild journey gonna take us? Where's it gonna land next? But I was trying to explain what the drama was about in that currently watching episode. Couldn't. I think I made it sound it is wild, but it is. So I thought for this episode, to keep it a little bit cleaner, I was going to use the Wiki Addicts synopsis. So, as they describe it, My Lethal Man tells the story of Shen Manning, who, because of an unexpected kidnapping case, discovers Zhuang Xinyan. After Zhuang Xinyan dies, the powerful and mysterious Yan Xingchang forces Shen Manning to start her second life as his fiancée. As they overcome adversities and difficulties together, the two go from being completely hostile with one another to slowly joining hands, learning to love and rely on each other. Together, they discover the truth of the unsolved case from 17 years ago. Now, what this leaves out is basically, so our female lead, she's called Shen Manning. So Shen Manning is she's not necessarily poor, but she's not rich either. But she is she's studying arts in a university in Italy. She's there on a scholarship and she's doing pretty well for herself. Now, in this university, there is another student called Zhuang Xinyan. Now, Zhuang Xinyan is the granddaughter of a very wealthy man in China, and I believe they have a couple of things that go under the company, but one of the most profitable ones is a jewelry company. So they design jewelry pieces and sell them, very expensive, sort of thing. And basically they are very, very, very wealthy. And the thing is, so Shen Manning and Zhuang Xinyan, they are doppelgangers. So obviously this is where our female lead plays both characters, because they are, the exact same person in terms of, they look exactly the same. You could literally mistake them for twins. And actually what ends up happening in episode 1, and this is very mild spoilers section, so I'm literally just going to go through the basics of what happens in episode 1. According to that synopsis, just to give you a little bit more background. But basically, our Shen Manning, who is the only way I can keep this straight to describe to you guys is the poor student and the rich student. That is the only way I can, So Shen Manning is the poor student, and she actually accidentally gets kidnapped because they think they are kidnapping the rich student. Now, the rich student finds this out, and she kind of goes and chases our, Shen Manning, the poor student, and actually ends up rescuing her. But they're being followed, and they get driven off the road, and basically the rich student ends up dying in that car accident because she basically throws herself in front of the poor student and kind of like saves her life. Now, this is where our male lead comes in, and the male lead is absolutely distraught. We can clearly see there's a connection between him and, the wealthy student, and basically the wealthy student is dead, and Shen Manning, our poor student, is lying in a hospital bed, and her eyes have had a lot of damage, and she will be blind. So our male lead, the doctors basically, and this is where the crazy wild things start. Not only have we already had, God, I think there's like 4 kidnapped attempts throughout the whole drama. It's crazy. But basically, this would never fly, never. But basically, the doctors think that our male lead is like who's in charge of, who's got the, what's the word I'm looking for? Who's got like, say over their medical decisions, because they're one's dead and the other one's unconscious. And basically the doctor basically goes up to him and goes, look, one's dead, one's, unconscious and about to be blind. The only thing you can probably do is get the dead girl's eyes and put it into the living girl so that she suffers no injuries. So that's how the story starts, because now the poor girl has, the dead girl's eyes, and she feels indebted to her, even though she was the whole reason she got kidnapped in the first place. Like I said, wild and bonkers. But basically, so she's like, the male lead is like, look, she died to save you. Well, she wouldn't have been kidnapped if it wasn't for you, but regardless, male lead's like, she died to save you, and you've got her eyes, and you need to her only wish was to go back and take over this company and not let the company fall in her aunts and cousins' arms. This company is her parents' baby, and her parents also died 17 years ago. That's the whole mystery, because people think it was an accident, and she and her brother, who also went missing, hint, hint, we all know who the brother is by now. But, basically, he's like, you're going to have to come back and pretend to be her. And, that's how the whole story basically begins, is that she feels really guilty. She wants to pay back our female lead. And to do so, she's going to go back to China from Italy for a year and basically just get the whole company on her side and get it run. Mind you, this is an arts student. She is not a, economics or, management student or anything like that, business student, nothing. So the male lead is all of that. So he's kind of pulling the cords behind her and kind of helps her to shape up, into the person she's supposed to be pretending to be. So that's that all happens in episode 1. So that can give you a great idea. That all literally happens in episode 1. So, it's all bonkers. It is a very, very wild ride. Completely wild ride. So, yeah, you can definitely be the judge. But if you do go into this, just turn your brain off. Just turn your brain off. Because that's the type of drama this is. You need your brain to be turned off. So that's the, not spoiler section. Now I'm going to get into the things that I enjoyed and the things that I didn't quite enjoy in this drama. And then basically, there will be spoilers from now on, because I have to talk about things that happen later on in the drama to sort of explain, what I enjoyed the most or what I didn't enjoy. So if if you don't mind spoilers, then keep listening. If you do mind spoilers and you want to watch this, then go watch it and then come back later. Or if you just want to listen to, what I enjoyed and what I didn't enjoy, and you don't intend on watching the drama at all, then also listen ahead. But this is your warning. There will be spoilers from now on. So, if you want to watch it, go watch it and then come back and listen to my thoughts for the rest of this. So, starting off, basically, the first thing that I wrote down that I really enjoyed is that basically the plot is absolutely wild. Like I said, the female lead gets kidnapped like 4 times, and then she goes from basically not being able to do business to then like learning everything really quickly and actually, being this girl boss. And so yeah, the plot is just absolutely wild. And as you've guessed, the male lead is the long lost brother that was meant to be dead 17 years ago. He isn't, and he's coming back to sort of take back what his parents grew. So obviously the rich girl that died was his sister, and he's now in love with the doppelganger of his sister. So take that as you will. He's basically in love with somebody who looks exactly like his sister. The only thing that I could explain for this is that he didn't grow up with her, so he's not used to that face as his sister. In his mind, he's used as the little girl that he saw. Now that probably makes it no better at all, but regardless, that is something that is in there. But what I mean by the plot is wild, and this is what I was getting at. Because this plot is so crazy, it kind of makes it compelling and addicting because you have no clue where the heck they're going to go next. Like, the beats, so by episode 10 they're in love or whatever. Well, that's not the case here because it's all over the place. He hates her and then he loves her, and then it's like, and she's the same. She falls in love with him, and at first she's just doing this out of guilt, and then she actually genuinely cares. I mean, that's all stuff that can happen in other dramas. But it's just a constant twisting and turning. I was on the edge of my seat half the time, and I don't know why, because it isn't that exceptionally good. But this is what I mean. It's so bad that it's good and addicting. So yeah, the plot, I enjoyed it, but not because it's a good plot, just simply because it's absolutely bonkers. And like I said, I could completely get immersed in it and forget about everything that was happening. In real life, I could go watch it and just forget, whatever was worrying me for that day, whatever. Sometimes you just want to escape into another world and give your brain a little bit of break. That's what this drama kind of did for me. So yeah, that's the first point I've got down. Now, second thing I've got down is about the male lead. So the male lead is really interesting, I think, because when you first kind of meet him on screen, you absolutely think straight away, he's a bit of a nightmare. If I met this person in real life, I would be running for the hills, because he's very, I don't even want to say, those type of cold CEOs. He's not that. He's on the warpath to revenge. And in doing so, he does not care who he has to take down with him to get what he wants. That's basically what his character arc at the very beginning is. Also, you don't find out until much later, but he's dealing with all of this, and also he's lost his sister. And I kind of think that whenever he looks at, obviously, our female lead, he kind of sees his sister because, doppelgangers, so they are exactly the same. So I think that probably does not mesh well with his psyche at all. But what I think is quite interesting is that, when you first meet him, you're like, how could I ever like this guy? There's just something. How could I ever even imagine our female lead with this guy. And then he slowly starts to shift and he kind of starts seeing what's underneath and like, you know, behind the layers, so to speak. And you kind of start to figure out his story and all of that. And actually, I kind of appreciated that later on in the story, there is a conversation that the female lead and the male lead have where he does ask her, like, how could you ever love me, like, after everything that I've done to you? There's just, he recognizes himself that the behavior he chose to have was not right. And I kind of think that helped to, you know, to understand and get behind the couple, is because there were conversations had and he clearly knew that that was not, you know, acceptable behavior. And also, by the end of this drama, he kind of is a puppy. Like, in the terms of that he is, there's no way that he's, you know, horrible or mean or anything like that. He's just comes kind of like to a point in his character development where he's actually dealt with what he needed to deal with. And that is the fact that he was in the car when basically 17 years ago, there was a car accident. He was in the car with his mum and his dad. And he knows somebody set that up. Like, he knows for sure that they wanted them dead and that they wanted him dead so that there would be no heirs but, you know, the people who were behind the plan. And basically, our male lead is like hell-bent on avenging his parents because the accident went down as a accident and it was definitely not an accident. It was, you know, murder. So that's what he wants to solve, so to speak. And when he kind of, so basically, not only did he see his parents being dead, but he gets pulled out of that wreckage and he's still alive. So somebody grabs him, pulls him out of the wreckage and actually throws him into the sea, and he kind of washes up ashore on a completely different land. They're all speaking English, so I'm assuming it's kind of like meant to be a different country or something like that. And he kind of ends up in an orphanage where he's very badly treated and he's got to kind of like survive. So he's gone from having the everything handed to him, you know, in a very comfortable lifestyle, to all of a sudden he has to scramble for, you know, everything he gets. And yes, he does have to use violence a lot of the time to get, you know, to get food or whatever he needs to do. So I can sort of understand where he's coming from, because all he's ever thought about is to get back to his life, to get that revenge for his parents. Now, that does not in any means justify, you know, especially the scenes where he's, you know, he's got a chokehold on the female lead. That does not justify at all his actions, but I'm kind of glad that they sort of went in and kind of, you know, explained things a little bit better, and that kind of understanding kind of made you warm up to him, I think. So at least for me, that's how it worked out. And also the very fact that by the end of the show, he was a very different character. Our female lead was a very, very different character by the end of the show. And I think I also need to comment on the male lead, you know, as the on the actor himself. So the actor is called Fanzin Shin. I have actually seen him a couple of times in different things, but I had not actually seen him, you know, I never really paid much attention to him. I think I've seen him in a couple of support roles before, but not really a main role. And what I realized was that there is something very charismatic about this male lead, that when he's on screen, he's just got like something a little bit captivating. And now that the camera is fully on him as the male lead, that kind of shines through way more than I had, you know, seen before. And there's just something very, very captivating about him. And I kind of, you know, liked that. And he pulled off the character quite well, I think. But also, So that's on the actor himself. There's a couple of scenes that require a lot of emotion, and the actor delivered those well enough. I don't think, I have seen actors, do worse. I have seen actors do much, much better. There is some actors that just have this ability to pull from this emotion and kind of like, bring you into that pain or that sorrow. That is an ability that makes an actor really, really, really stand out, because I don't think all of them, any of them have them. One that comes to mind straight away is Kim So Hyun. Like, his acting whenever it comes to a hard scene, and I'm particularly thinking about his role in It's Okay to Not Be Okay, and I believe it's episode 9, and I watched this a really, really long time ago, and I'm completely going off course, but there's this scene where he just completely breaks down, and when I watched that scene, I was like, he was taking my heart and it was breaking in 1,000 pieces right along with the character. And that's what I mean by something special. Not every actor can do it, and that's fine, because it's a hard thing to do, I think, to be able to channel those, to be in that moment so thoroughly. More recently, even, I would say Wang Hedi did the exact same thing when it came to his scenes in, A Love Between Fairy and Devil. You can see in the behind the scenes how much he was in that character and in that moment, that it pulls the audience into that moment as well. And, it devastates the audience. And that, for that to be done, it's really, really hard. But this actor doesn't quite reach that, level, but he's not that bad either. I would say he did pretty well with his scenes in terms of when it came to scenes of that required a lot more of him. So I was pleasantly surprised. I will definitely be checking out a couple more things from him, because, like I said, there is something about him that just sort of like captivates you when he's on screen. So there is actually another mini drama that he was the star of. I believe it's called Child She's Wine. I have started watching it, just got a little bit caught up elsewhere, but I have started watching it, and he plays a very, very different character. So I'm very much looking forward to like comparing. I'll probably do that one for a Patreon special, because it is a very short web drama, so I'll be doing like a little mini review on that one, I think, for Patreon. But I'm just going to be very intrigued, because like I said, I think I only watched the first episode, and his character is completely different to what he plays here, so I kind of like that. Only time will tell to see, if you can pull both of them, both characters. Well, this one, he did a really good job. I thought, like I said, something very captivating about him. And, the more emotional scenes also worked out pretty well. So that is our male lead. I was, pretty impressed with him in terms of his acting and his actual character growth as well. Like I said, the character he is at the end of the show is a very, very, very different from the character he is at the beginning. He goes on this journey to like realize what he truly wants, and then what he wants is not quite what he thought. So that's all on our male lead. Like I said, quite enjoyed his acting. Moving on to the next thing on my list of things that I enjoyed would be the female lead. Now, when she starts, so basically, right, you obviously have the poor girl who is Shen Manning, who is our female lead. But then you also have the same actress playing the, role of the rich version of the doppelganger. And when I first started watching this drama and I saw the rich version, I was like, I want to see her story, because she was a character that was way more captivating. The poor version of the doppelganger, I'm sorry guys, there is no other way for me to distinguish them rather than the poor girl and the rich girl. It sounds lame, but it's how I can like keep everything straight in my head. I hope you guys don't mind too much. So basically, she starts off very, very meek. She's like a nice, nice person, But to me, her story didn't seem that interesting, because she was this very meek, very, I don't know, guys, just like this character that didn't really call out. Whereas the rich female lead, she was like, she would walk into the room and you'd pay attention. And I'm like, well, the same actress is playing both of them. So I'm hoping that this energy that she's having for, playing the rich girl is going to eventually come back into our poor girl. And it did. It definitely does. Because by the end of it, like, the roles are completely reversed. So basically, our male lead kind of like starts losing the plot in terms of his grandpa dies and he's just basically reliving everything. And one of the things is that he blames himself and he's like, I cannot love anybody because everybody that I love ends up dead. And that's his like way of thinking. And it kind of like, you can kind of see where he's coming from because his dad dies, his mum apparently dies. She does not. She comes back later. She's very alive. She's just been stashed somewhere. We don't know why she hasn't come back earlier. But, apparently she was quite sick for a long time. So I didn't quite understand what happened there. But the mum is alive. And it's a beautiful scene when, the son and mother kind of reunite after all of this time. It's a really beautiful scene. But like I said, by the end of it, the male lead kind of like completely breaks down. And the female lead is the one who steps up and she's basically like, taking care of him. And she's like, no, we can do this. Like, she's the one who's looking for the evidence and who is basically being the boss. And I really, really enjoyed that because that's not the case at all when we first start. When we first start, she's just following his lead. Whatever he says goes. And by the end, it's completely the opposite. They become much more of a team. And I really, really enjoy that because there's like, although at the beginning she seems like she's the powerless one, there's this shift of power between them back and forth throughout the whole drama. And by the end of the drama, our female lead is actually, they're on par with each other. They kind of like, and she's like the bossier one almost, which I really, really enjoyed to see. In terms of like that dynamic and their relationship kind of shift. So yeah, like I said, when I first started, I was thinking, oh my God, I really wish, the rich girl was our female lead because she's the one who has like that energy that I really want to watch. But that energy served and came back into the, the poor girl later on. So I was happy enough with that. It was the first time I watched this, actress. She did a pretty well enough job, I think, for this type of drama. Like I said, when it comes to like these types of drama, I don't expect high things of them. So my expectations are way, way, way lower than, say if I'm going in for a full 16 episode K-drama or a full, 30 episode Chinese drama. Although this one in length is comparable to most dramas out there, the 24 episode mark is a pretty standard for Chinese dramas. I don't intend the plot to be really tight or the story to be really well told. That's just not what I'm going in for these. So yeah, I think she did pretty well for what it was. And that's it. That's on our female lead. Now, for my next point, what I wrote down is, so our male lead has a secretary and he has a bodyguard. Now, they're like a little trio and they are the ones working together constantly. Now, they met at this orphanage. I'm assuming it was an orphanage. They kind of like were going to the same school and they were kind of like, the secretary is kind of like this nerdy, gungly guy. And he was getting bullied by these, bullies, and the bodyguard kind of comes in and helps him out, but then actually turns on him and kind of like bullies him. And then our male lead comes in and he's like, no, and then they like kind of fight it out, which is really bizarre, but that's how they become friends. Like the three of them kind of stick together in a really bad, rough situation. And I really liked their friendship. I really did. Throughout the whole drama, they cared, they forged a bond in that space where no good things were happening to them. So they kind of like went through thick and, they went through a really bad situation together and kind of like bonded them together. And I absolutely loved the three of them, especially the secretary and the bodyguard. To me, that was the real ship, because basically the female lead, her best friend, like sister, she's kind of like a stepsister, because the female lead's dad marries the, best friend's mum. So, they're kind of like stepsisters. But basically, she ends up, she kind of comes in and she falls in love with the bodyguard, but the bodyguard isn't interested. And then she actually ends up with the secretary. Now, to me, that was just a cop-out, because the real ship of this show was the secretary and the bodyguard. I kid you not. I was like, I absolutely loved the banter between these two. And if this was any other country other than China, I reckon those two would be the real ship and not the best friend. But yeah, I really loved the friendship between the three. Like I said, the banter between the three of them was great, but especially between the bodyguard and the secretary, really good banter. So that was another thing I really enjoyed. Next up, I have... So this is a bizarre thing that I wrote down, but I'm hoping you understand where I'm coming from. So with these dramas tend to be like a little bit like more low budget, and often like the rich don't quite look rich. Do you get what I mean? So that's what I wrote down in this. It's like the rich actually looked rich. So it kind of like sold me on the story a little bit more, if that makes sense. Sometimes there's those dramas and I think they just don't quite have the budget. So they'll kind of like, they want you to believe that this is, the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, but he doesn't like dress like one, or he doesn't, own a car like one would. In this drama, that's not the case. They all look very rich. So, their house, I want to live in that house. Basically the main family's house is stunning. It's absolutely stunning. Like the gardens, they have this beautiful greenhouse. So that house alone, it looks very rich. But that's, a point that I put down. I know it's a little strange of a point, but I'm hoping you guys understand what I mean by that, that the rich people actually look rich. So that's that. And then the last point that I have is that, guys, I have to mention this. Now, I know a lot of people probably wouldn't agree, in terms of like the chemistry, but I thought that our main couple had really good chemistry. And that led to some really freaking good kissing scenes. And not like, the female lead kind of stands there, a little bit helplessly, maybe puts her hands on, the male lead's arms or something like that. No, this female lead, she was kissing. Like, she was kissing back just as good as the male lead was kissing. And there's this particular scene which has made the rounds all over Instagram. It's popped up on my Instagram so many times, it's crazy. Where the female lead kind of like was in a tough situation. They were trying to figure out if she was who she was saying she was. Obviously, she's not, but she was smart enough to get out of that situation without the male lead, which I really appreciated. She figured that out on her own. And there's a lot of things that happen throughout it where she's like, actually, the power kind of shifts to her because you don't see her as this helpless, dumb female lead. In a sense, she's actually pretty clever on her own. So, yeah, basically, she's coming back with, like, from this really high intensity sort of situation. And the male lead is, like, also really stressed out. And they kind of just leave all of that stress and passion and, all of this built up emotion in this kiss. And he kind of like kisses, like she kind of sits over the desk, and it's a hot scene. Like, it's a pretty good scene. So, and that's not the only one. There's a kiss scene like at the bridge where, oh my god, I have to mention this scene, guys, because I loved it. So the male lead kind of comes and, you know, he tells everybody, look, that's not, because somebody finds out that she's not the real rich, you know, granddaughter, and they're about to expose them. So what happens? The male lead kind of like goes on his own and does his thing and basically says, look, I know she's not, but I am. I'm like the grandson of this family. So the company kind of like belongs to me and whatnot. Because at the end of the day, this drama is literally all about getting that dumb bloody company. From, you know, I kind of guessed who the baddie was. The baddie is the aunt. You know, I saw that one coming, sibling jealousy and whatnot. But basically, he's like, look, it should be my company. I'm the eldest grandson of the, you know, of this company, so it should belong to me. And in doing that, they then suggest he kind of needs help for something, and they kind of suggest that he gets engaged to, you know, the third female lead, which I will come back to her because I had a problem with her. I did. They put her in these blooming really long earrings, anchor earrings, like you could see her in a mile off, and she's just really annoying. Like in the first couple of episodes, I mean, for the first half of the show, she's really annoying. But anyways, so he's like getting engaged, and it's hilarious because he's getting engaged on the same spot that he got engaged to the fake granddaughter, let's call her that for now. Like I said, again, bonkers drama. But yeah, he's getting engaged. It looks the same, it's just that the bride has changed, and he's getting engaged, and Shen Manning finds out, and she's like, this is just not gonna roll. So basically, she storms the wedding down, and she like goes in and like tells him everything, and kind of like, you know, steals the groom almost. Well, she's like, look, you can choose to do this, but I know you love me and you should be with me. You should put love above, you know, we should be past the point where we're making business weddings part of a business deal. And I'm like, yes. And it's so good because she's like completely dressed down and she's literally just storms in there. And I'm like, there's the confidence from the rich female lead that we saw at the beginning. Literally storms in there and she's like, that's my man. You know, this is dumb. Like, this is dumb. He doesn't love her. This is basically a business transaction and it's the 21st century. Come on. So I absolutely loved this. And I'm like, this is a wild drama, but also it's spitting facts that should we really in the 21st century be marrying for business? So I absolutely loved that scene. And she kind of like walks off and she kind of like proposes to him in the middle. Mind you, guys, the bride to be is standing right there, but at this point we don't really like her, so it's fine. So she's kind of like standing there and she's like, what the hell is happening? And everybody's just like, what the heck is happening? And it's insanity, pure insanity. And she's like, look, I'm proposing to you. You don't have to answer me right now, but I just need you to know how I feel. So she basically kind of like starts walking off and you kind of like, come on, dude, come on. And he literally just chases her, plants a kiss on her, and they kind of ran off. And the bride is like, what the hell just happened? And everybody's just like, what the heck just happened? Mind you, this is the girl that looks exactly like his sister. So when I tell you guys, this drama is absolutely bonkers and I was here for all of it, this is what I mean. And also, I absolutely loved, you know, this scene. Like, this is our female lead kind of like stepping up. But there's a kiss scene right after this and it's on a bridge, and oh my god, it is stunning because it's like nighttime and they're on a bridge, and the passion in this kiss, it is insanity. So what I mean is, even if you don't watch this drama, and, you know, if you're listening to the spoilers just for the heck of it, just go Google the kiss scenes. You won't regret them because they are definitely worth your time. So yeah, that's the last thing I have. This episode has gone way longer than I thought it was going to go, but here we are. There's just a couple of things that I want to mention that I didn't quite enjoy as much. And like I said, very much at the beginning would be, you know, the choke scenes. And there is a couple, I think there's probably 2 or 3. Like I said, I understand that for them is kind of like wanting to show that the male lead is absolutely like ruthless at that point. But there would have been other ways for them to do so. But maybe, I suppose, they wouldn't have been as impactful as they were. So I didn't like them. That, you know, I didn't necessarily like them. I think there would have been other ways to have shown his like ruthlessness. Yeah, that's a word, I think. So yeah, that's one of the things. The best friend. The female lead's best friend's stepsister, oh my god, she annoyed the living heck out of me. But also, mainly because I was shipping the secretary and bodyguard, which realistically was never going to happen because that's 2 guys and this is China. But still, my ship, she got in the way of my ship, and that alone, it wasn't the only reason. I mean, she went to a wedding in shorts, guys, in shorts. Whoever styled her clearly was not the same person who styled everybody else, because she was so badly dressed compared to everybody else that I had no idea what was going on. It was bizarre, to say the least. But yeah, I don't know, I just didn't quite enjoy her. She was a little bit annoying. And with that, I'll tag along the 3rd female lead, you know, the bride-to-be that was gonna marry our male lead but got stood up at the altar. Basically, she was very annoying. They kind of actually brought her around. So in the second half, she kind of like grew a lot, actually. So I kind of was okay with her by the end, but she was hard work to get through in the first sort of like half. But yeah, that's everything I could think of. Like I said, this drama is definitely not for everybody, but if you're looking for something just fun and pure escapism and like turn your brain off kind of drama, then I think this will work. I really enjoyed it for that, you know, for actual just pure escapism, and it, you know, that's what it worked really well for me as. And I think actually with that, that's it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. Have you enjoyed this drama? And also, do you have, you know, any of these dramas that you realistically know are not that great, like the plot and the story, you know they're not that great, but yet you still really enjoy watching them, whether it be for escapism or whether it be because you like, you know, the actor or whatever it is, let me know, because I'm hoping I'm not alone in this. Like, these dramas are wild, but they can still be a lot of fun, even if you're just making fun of the show, but, you know, let me know, you know, what you've thought and whatnot. And yeah, that's everything for this episode. Like I said, I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and tune in next week because we have a very special episode next week, which I'm really excited to share with you guys. So I will see you then. Bye. This has been another episode of the Tea and Soju Asian Drama Podcast. I'm your host, Liliana, and you can come and chat to me on Instagram, Tea and Soju Pod, all one word, and on Twitter, tea_soju_pod. You can also email me at teandsojupodcast@gmail.com. If you would like to support this podcast, please consider joining Patreon for extra content. Lastly, if you enjoy this podcast, please help by rating and reviewing wherever you listen to help others find this drama corner. I'll leave everything linked in the description notes. See you next time for more Asian drama chatter.